5G, 4K 60 HDR, and MagSafe may not seem that cool now, but when the iPhone 12 Pro Max came out in November of 2020, it was all the buzz. Let's talk about it. What's up guys, Josh D here, and today I'm going to be doing my honest review of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, a phone which I've been daily driving since I switched to it from Android in July of 2021. Let's get started. Alright, and just like any other honest review, we're going to start with a overview of the device before I get into my review. So, the iPhone 12 Pro and all the other iPhone 12s in the lineup came out in November of 2020 after being announced that prior event. The starting price of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is this phone right here, was $1,099 US for 128 gigabytes, $1,199 for 256 gigabytes, and $1,399 for the half a terabyte iPhone 12 Pro Max. This is also Apple's first phone ever since the iPhone SE 1 to have straight edges. If you remember the iPhone 8, 7, 10, they're all rounded like this, as you can see right here. But not the iPhone 12. The iPhone 12 has the straight square edges, just like the iPhone 5, 4S, and SE. On the front of the phone, the part you'll be looking at the most, it has a Super Retina XDR OLED 6.7-inch flat-edged ceramic shield-coated touchscreen. That was a very long sentence to basically say it's a glass screen that's 6.7 inches big and it has a lot of pixels on the inside. On the back of the phone, we have three cameras. All three of these cameras are 12 megapixels. We have our wide camera with sensor shift image stabilization, which we'll get to in a minute. We have our telephoto camera with optical image stabilization, and we have our ultra wide camera with electronic image stabilization. On the front of the phone, we not only have our 12 megapixel front facing camera, but we also have our notch with our Face ID, True Depth, and other various cameras and sensors required for Face ID to work. Let's go back to the cameras. Now, the bottom camera is the one with the sensor shift. Now, let me talk about that a little bit since some of you may not know what sensor shift means. Now, sensor shift is different from standard optical image stabilization. The way optical image stabilization works is the camera lens itself moves against the movement of the camera. So if the camera moves one way, the lens moves the other way to try and balance out and make the image seem as steady as possible. But the way sensor shift works is instead of the lens moving, the physical sensor itself is moving, similarly to a DSLR with IBIS or in-body image stabilization. It works the same way. The sensor moves with a magnet against the movement of the camera in order to make it seem less shaky. Now, the reason this is better than regular optical image stabilization is because this can stabilize up to 500 times faster than standard optical image stabilization, which is found in this phone. This is more stable than this because this can stabilize faster than this. I hope that made things simple for you guys to understand. Also new with the iPhone 12 is this black dot, aka the LiDAR sensor. This isn't used for anything most people would use, but what it's for is generating 3D maps and apps that use them. Alongside the iPad Air 4 when it was announced, Apple decided to release this phone with the A14 Bionic CPU, which is one of Apple's most powerful CPUs that they've ever made for their iPhones and iPads. With the A14 Bionic chip comes the ability for 5G in the iPhone 12, and this was Apple's first phone to incorporate 5G connectivity. And if you have an iPhone 12, that's what this small black line right here is for. This is for the 5G millimeter wave connections. Now, if you don't know what 5G millimeter wave is, I'm not going to talk about it in this video. There are several other people online that have made great videos talking about the different types of 5G and why each one is important. So if you're interested further, I would recommend checking out one of those. But all I'm going to say here is that this was Apple's first phone to incorporate 5G connectivity. Another one of my favorite features of the iPhone 12 is MagSafe. Now, you can't see it, but Inside is a circular MagSafe connector, and Apple and other providers have made several MagSafe accessories for this phone. In fact, I actually have one with me right now. This battery is a MagSafe battery. It's not official Apple battery, but it is a MagSafe battery, and if I attach it to the back of my phone, it mounts like a MagSafe battery, which is very cool. The battery in this phone is rated for up to 20 hours of video playback and 80 hours of audio playback. In my experience, on a daily basis, I use my phone about 85% of my awake hours. So normally by the end of the day, if I don't charge it and I use my phone avidly, I get about 26-25% battery at the end of the day, and if I really use my phone that day, sometimes it's dead before I even get home. Alright, now I'm not going to do a bunch of scientific tests except for Geekbench, because every tech YouTuber has to do Geekbench on their tech reviews, but I'm just going to tell you guys about my time with this phone, and while I'm talking about my time with this phone, I'm going to put on the screen a bunch of pictures and videos that I've taken with this phone and its incredible cameras. The Geekbench score on my phone was actually not terrible. It scored a 1558 on the single core performance and a 4016 on the multi-core performance, which again, numbers aren't important to me, but that's what the results stated. Like I said, I've owned this phone since July of 2021, and it has honestly been, not to lie to you, but it's been kind of a roller coaster. Mostly highs, but there have been a couple of lows with this phone that have made me really question why I bought it in the first place. Now, apart from generic stuff like Wi-Fi and LTE speed tests, none of that really matters to me. All that matters to me is that I'm able to make calls and texts, I'm able to check my social media, I'm able to connect with the people that I need to connect to most, and that it does what I ask it to do when I ask it to do it. And for the most part, this phone has actually been really good at doing that, but there have been a few times where it has just failed and it's just not been good. Anyway, while the rest of these pictures are going, and in the middle of it, I'm going to go ahead real quickly, just put in a quick little video test that I shot about an hour ago, just so you guys can have a very recent and raw audio comparison test between what you're hearing and seeing now and what comes out of this phone. The front-facing camera on this phone is 4K 30 if you record in HEVC. Right now I have it in H.264, so it only does 4K 30, but the video's at 30 FPS anyway. And yeah, this is the quality of the front-facing camera, and yeah, there's that. The first thing I like about this phone is the screen to body ratio, but to be specific is the big screen on the phone. Now this phone is very easy to hold for me, and I don't have super big hands, and I love the size of this phone and the size of the screen, and it's really good. And on top of that, right under it in my notes, I've put that it has great battery life. Now, under the right circumstances, yes, this phone does actually have incredible battery life. And this is my second phone, and if you want to hear the full story of that, check down below in my Patreon. I've put a small little video clip of what the story of the two phones is. But I've had two phones with them. They both had great battery life. This phone I've had for longer than the other one, I think. Either that or they just hit the same time. And it's been good. I'm curious to see how it is a year from now, though, because I feel like it's going to be not as good as it is now. But for right now, the battery in this phone is great, and I have very little complaints about it. Now, the next thing I like is the storage. Now, I got the 128 gigabyte storage because I want to say that I don't use a lot on my phone, but I actually do. I'm pretty sure right now my phone only has 8 gigabytes of that 128 gigabytes free because I'm a media guy. I run a photo and video business. I do a lot of photo and video stuff with my phone. So obviously I'm gonna need as much storage as I can, but the fact that Apple decided to make their cheapest phone at 128 gigabytes really is good for me because it means that I'm not spending more to get more storage, because on previous phones they've started at 32 and 64 gigabytes, which is nowhere near enough for me. So the fact that they decided to start this phone with the base price at 128 gigabytes is really good for me, and I'm sure it could be good for you too if you use a lot of stuff on your phone. Once again, the cameras on this phone I really like. Now, you do have to know how to use them, because Apple put in a bunch of HDR stuff in this phone, and if you don't use any of the HDR settings, the images just look overprocessed. However, with Apple's new Pro RAW feature, it lets you kind of get around it, because every photo that I take on this phone that's gonna be for corporate or for like people, I'm gonna take it in Pro RAW so I can convert it to Adobe's RGB. And this process normally gives me the best looking results. And some of the photos that you saw earlier were done using that method. They were taken in they were taken in Apple's Pro RAW and then converted to Adobe's RGB. No other color processing has been done to them. They've just been converted between Apple and Adobe. So again, if you know how to use the cameras look great. But if you don't use HDR and you have everything set to fully auto, your images look overprocessed. And again, it's not a terrible thing. It's just, for me, I'm a video guy. I see stuff like that and it's annoying to me. But if you know how to use the cameras, which I've said for like the 5th time in one sentence, they are very good and I'm not disappointed. And another thing that I really like about this phone, which is kind of not really surprising, is the operating system. I love iOS. I have iOS on my phone and my iPad, and it is just truly incredible how everything syncs between my phone, my iPad, and my Mac when I use it. And it's just really nice that I can go seamlessly between my iPhone and my iPad without skipping a beat. And something that's really useful for me, you're able to sync your SMS text messages, aka the green ones, to your iPad as well as the blue ones. So it's really good, because if I'm using my iPad for something and someone with their Fandroid texts me, I don't have to reach for this to text them back. I could just pull it down on my iPad and text them and go back to doing what I was doing. It's really nice that the OS just syncs with everything super easily. Another thing that I really like about this phone is Face ID. You see that little lock at the top? Watch this. Now it's unlocked. All I had to do was look at it for like half a second and it unlocks. This is probably one of, if not my favorite features of this phone, because like 65% of the time that I look at my phone, it's sitting right there on my desk. I wanted to show y'all exactly. Sits right there on my desk. So when this thing lights up with a notification, it's so easy for me to just glance at my phone. It recognizes my face and shows me what the notification says, and then the screen just turns off. It's such a useful feature. And the screen won't show your notifications until you look at it. And even if your face is in view, like I'm not looking at it, it hasn't unlocked it yet. But as soon as I look at it, it unlocks. And it is probably like, I know I'm obsessing over it, but it is like super secure, super fast, and I really like it. My next favorite thing about the iPhone is actually the Apple Watch, which you can't exactly see. This is my Apple Watch SE. I've owned it since I think October. And this Apple Watch is great. It syncs with my phone. My phone pushes all my texts, all my notifications, all my emails, phone calls, alarms. It pushes everything to my Apple Watch. So if I'm like driving, or if don't have my phone out, like it's in my pocket or it's in the other room or whatever, all I have to do, if I get a notification, it buzzes my wrist, or if I have the sound on, it makes like a little noise, and it shows me what the notification says. I actually have a review that I'm currently writing for the Apple Watch, which is going to go in depth on the Apple Watch. But for the iPhone's review, its integration with the Apple Watch is great. And one of the last things that I wanted to talk about for things that I absolutely love with this iPhone is CarPlay. Now, I have a 2017 Chevrolet vehicle, so it has the screen for CarPlay on it. And let me tell you, CarPlay is incredible. I want you to hear every syllable in that word. It is amazing. So what I normally do, I have a little magnet thing that's not on there because it looks not clean with it on there. I have a little magnet thing that I put my phone on. It holds my phone up, and I put Spotify over there, and then on my CarPlay, because my car doesn't have a built-in map, so I use the CarPlay for the map. And it's so incredible because it has my Hey Siri integration, it has all my maps, and if I get a phone call, it will show that person's name and phone number on the screen. And it's super easy to just click it, answer it. It goes through the car's Bluetooth, so it's like super seamless already. And it's just very easy to use, and I really, really like CarPlay compared to Android Auto, which is an absolute nightmare if you've ever had to use it. All right, now let's get on to the things that I don't exactly like with this phone. And I don't really have that many, but I do still need to cover what they are in case you're looking at buying this phone, and I want you to know my opinions and what I do and don't like about this phone. The very first thing that I don't like about this phone, which actually, if you're lucky enough to buy a phone that doesn't have iOS 15, you get around this. But this new feature called Focus, which I actually have turned on right now because I am filming a video, the focus messes up my Apple Watch's sync. So with the old way that Do Not Disturb worked, which is what Focus is now called, it would just mute both my phone and my Apple Watch. I would get nothing except for phone calls, and it would show up on my Apple Watch and my phone. But now with the way Focus is set up, you can allow like certain contacts and apps to still give you notifications during that Focus's activity. But the thing is, when you activate one of those focuses, like this focus that I'm on literally allows nothing. It's complete silence. But the focus, I have one focus for my parents and the teachers at my school. It's for school. So I have my parents and every teacher phone number that I have. It allows those numbers. So what'll happen is if you turn on a focus, your phone will suddenly quit sending notifications to your Apple Watch. Your Apple Watch's focus will activate, but it won't give you the notifications anymore. It's really weird because it didn't do this like on iOS 15.0, but then as soon as they updated it, literally as soon as the first update, I think it was 0.1 came out, it bricked it. So the focus will activate on the phone and the watch, but when the focus is active on the watch, it will not push any notifications to the watch. The phone won't push any notifications to the watch, and it makes no sense to me why the watch would turn on the focus if it's not gonna block out only those notifications. So the workaround, which is actually more annoying than it seems, is to just tell it to not sync your focuses to your Apple Watch, but then every notification to your phone is still being pushed. You'll only see the ones that you've allowed, but every notification will get pushed to your Apple Watch. It's extremely annoying. I, as well as anybody on the Apple community, has not found a solution yet, but hopefully it's in the works. I hear iOS 15.4 is coming out soon. If not, maybe already released. I have no idea. But anyway, supposed to fix those problems, hopefully, so yeah, we will see about that. That would be super exciting. The next thing I want to talk about, which we kind of brushed over already, but the images look over-processed. Now, if you don't use the ProRAW, if you use the ProRAW and you convert your photos to Adobe, they look fine. But if you take your photo on the normal, like the normal camera app, under like not good lighting conditions, they can look really over-processed if you don't have all the HDR stuff turned on. Same with video. What I've found that I've had to do for my video is because it's trying to process an HDR image in SDR, if that makes any sense. So what I found that I've had to do is I've had to use the EV compensation all the way down to -2, and then I brighten the video back up in editing software, which is sort of a pain, but it's what I'll go through in order to make sure that the video doesn't look like garbage, because they basically do out of the phone straight up. The next thing that I don't like, which I'm surprised I'm even having problems with, because if y'all don't know, I had an S9 before, that's an Android phone. The calls are inconsistent. And I'm not talking about the focus, I'm talking about the calls are straight up inconsistent. Like half the time I won't get a phone call, and then all of a sudden I'll get a pop-up up here saying I got a missed call. Like, That doesn't make any sense because I have Verizon, and I know Verizon may not be the best, but like I get coverage pretty much everywhere I go. So there's no way that I got a call and it just completely didn't pop up. So I don't know if it's something with the phone itself or if it's with the iOS or what, but something is causing it to not show every call that it's been a little better recently. I will say that ever since iOS 15 came out, it's been a little better, but I just wanted to address it just because it is something that happened to me. And last thing is the driving focus, aka do not disturb while driving. Now, I like that it activates during CarPlay, and I like that it texts your people back, but I don't like that if your screen locks automatically, or if you accidentally press the lock button, that it makes you not able to unlock the phone again. I get it, but I don't get it. It should have some kind of system in there that detects when you're stopped and allow you to unlock the phone without disabling the focus, because sometimes there are scenarios where you don't want your focus thing to be disabled because the people won't be able to know that you're driving. So I want people to know that I'm driving so I have an excuse as to why I didn't text back. But when I go to unlock my phone when I'm stopped, like literally if the car is legit in park, it still will make you unlock it and say I'm not driving. Now if the I'm not driving thing didn't turn off the focus, I would have no problem with it. The problem with me is that it does, and it gives you a splurge of notifications up here, which is just completely absurd, and it's not good in my personal opinion. But it's whatever, I'm sure they did it for a reason. I'm just saying I don't like it. Alright, now it's time for the end and the rating. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give this phone an 8.5 out of 10. Now we're gonna take the couple of stars off just because, number one, the camera processing is just ridiculous, and I think there should be a way to disable it, because this phone didn't have any extra processing, and the images personally look good coming out of this phone. And a second thing, because of those calls, I really think that it's dumb that a device whose purpose is to give you calls isn't giving you the calls. Then I think a star or two should be taken off for that. But it's still a good phone, and and what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna start leaving theses at the end of these videos. So here's my thesis for this one. The iPhone 12 Pro Max is a great phone to buy if you're still rocking an old phone. However, if you ask my opinion today, I would say go with the iPhone 13. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. It means a lot. It lets me know that you guys are enjoying these videos. Also, quick announcement, I now have a Patreon. Now the Patreon covers all my channels, but I'm gonna link it in this one as well as the rest of them if you're subscribed to those. Any support would be good. All the money will go obviously to bettering the equipment and quality of the production of these videos. So anything you guys give helps me out tremendously. So again, the Patreon link is down below, and once I become eligible, the join button will be right next to the subscribe button. And while we're talking about it, the subscribe button, if it's red, make sure you hit the frick out of that subscribe button and turn that button gray, because any subscribers that we get are like family to me, and I want to make this family as big as we possibly can be. So let's make sure we get everything. Like the video, support me on the Patreon, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If I'm missing anything, please leave me a comment down below. And if y'all have anything else to say about this video, let me know in the comments, and I will see y'all next time. Y'all stay safe, everyone.